but not good facility at a very old style. Just old style of lecture. We must move to the new style of lecture. We are planning to do 1 or 2 lecture rooms at the moment we have.
And in the presentation, I said we are sending a group of faculty member and administrative staff to visit the top universities all over the world to see how the classroom design is and how much of our facilities are designed like you mentioned. So we like to introduce more and more these kind of active learning spaces by asking government to give us money to do so.
Yeah, financing is very important with those types of resources. So I'd like to move on to the last topic I'd like to discuss, but first I'd like to come back to President Mishima. So you mentioned the quarter system. So the new curriculum will be a shift from the semester-based system to the quarter-based system. But in the U.S., there's approximately 20% of the universities use a quarter-based system. But I think the way they define, U.S. defines a quarter system and the way you're defining, or Tokyo Tech is defining the quarter system is a little bit different. For example, in the U.S., the year could be divided into 4 quarters. But I think what the Tokyo Tech system is basically half semester is a quarter. So can you clarify that particular point?
Yeah, we have discussed what is the best quarter system we have, or best academic calendar should be for more in-depth education, And first we just compare these two systems, 10-week quarter or 7-week quarter, and then we came up to the go for us half semester system. I think that is because the amount of teaching in the whole of semester is necessary for us, to educate the student instead of 10 weeks. And so we keep 15 weeks total as a semester, but we split it into 2 for 7 weeks. But by doing that, still we have a merit of having more concentrated type of education, dense, about like having 2 lectures in 1 week, and those things. And also we can open up some quarter for like June, July, August, not to have a compulsory classes. Then the student can still go into the, abroad or study abroad. Yeah. So that was kind of the best answer for so far, and maybe there's some better way. But,
okay, thank you.
If I could add to that. One of the advantages of thinking about splitting a semester into 2 equal-sized chunks is that it may make it easier for students to find different paths through the curriculum. So, a student that's interested in one major may want to take the first half of a programming class and then do something else and then later come back to the second half of that programming class. Whereas a student with a different major, will put the pieces together. So the idea is if you go to sort of 7-week modules, you can now make multiple paths through the curriculum that will suit different interests more flexibly, rather than saying to students, you have to take this entire class, even though half of it may not be of value to you now. And so I like this idea, and that's MIT is moving in a similar way of looking at more and more 6-unit modules as a way to try and put that together. I think there's a real value to that.
Okay, thank you. President Mishima, you mentioned by going to the quarter system, this will open up a block of time where students can study abroad. Can you give us a little more insight on the vision for studying abroad, where Tokyo Tech, or where, for example, numbers, or what you would like students to do by studying abroad, the skills or competencies they can obtain?
You mean the number of students we like to send? Yeah. We now working on the mixed program on nurturing global youngsters, and we are having a target of sending 100 undergraduate students per year for study abroad at this moment. But this is still not enough, and ideally I like to send all the fresh, or 1,000 students coming into Tokyo Tech to go abroad once during their undergraduate time. That's maybe it's ideal, but I like to do that really. And in order to do so, we have to have many more universities collaborations worldwide. And also, not by just sending our student, we have to accept a student about so many students. So we have to have a good summer school at Tokyo Tech, so to attract the student from MIT, Berkeley, and so on.
Yes, since 2012, we've been exchanging a limited number of students, both with MIT and Cal Berkeley. So, Professor Chancellor Grimson, you mentioned, for example, you had, I think, around 20% of the students were studying abroad. Is that? It seemed like it's plateauing, and could you provide some future vision on that? And then finally, I'd like to close with Professor Gronsky and a similar comment.
We share a similar goal to what you just expressed. We would really like it to be the case that every MIT undergraduate that wants a global opportunity will get one. And we'd like it to be 100%. You're right, if you looked at the graph, sharp eyes, we plateaued up at about 800 students each year, but we send 800 students every summer abroad to 16 countries. Part of it is we make a slightly different view of this, and it's not better or worse, it's just a little different, which is our students are going abroad to get a research experience. So these are internships in research labs in universities or in companies, but it's aimed at actually, rather than going abroad and taking classes elsewhere, which is the traditional model and a very good one, we want our students to actually get a research experience. We think it's incredibly valuable for an American engineering student to learn how a Japanese engineer thinks. And they do think differently, and so we want them to come here and have that experience, or come to a research lab. So it's a long way of saying we'd like to get to the stage where we could send all of our students abroad. It's going to be difficult because of identifying enough places that can do that exchange, and I think this is a challenge for all of us. But the experience is so valuable that we really, that's our vision, is anybody who wants to have that global experience should be able to have that global experience. If I can take 30 seconds, even if I can't, I will ask for it. I'd like to tell you a story about why we think that experience is so valuable, and my colleagues heard it last night at dinner. I heard a talk recently from somebody who's an anthropologist who works for Intl. Think about it, that's not a very common combination. And she talked about, if you are going to market a cell phone in different parts of the world, how important it is to understand the culture of that place, which is why we think this experience is so valuable. And she said to a group of us, she said, if you want to market a great new cell phone in the Middle East, in the Gulf, it's really important that that cell phone has extremely good GPS on it. And we all nodded, said, yeah, we understand. And she said, no, it's not for the reason you think. It's not to know where you are, it's to know where Mecca is. And as soon as she said it, we all went, oh, I would never have thought about that, but in that culture, that is really important. The point of the story is that global experience for our students is going to make them more effective as business leaders, as company leaders, as people who just understand the culture. And that's why I would like it to be the case that they all have that opportunity, so that they understand when they come to Japan that culture is different and you need to adapt to it.
I said in order to have more incoming students, we need to have a good summer school, I said, but which doesn't mean that those are the coursework and just research opportunity. Yeah, research opportunity for us. That's what
I would just offer a follow-up on Chancellor Grimson's comment. Perfect segue here. I'm fortunate to live in the San Francisco Bay Area, where most of our graduating engineers could probably find a job in Silicon Valley if they wanted to. Silicon Valley has great capacity for hiring good engineers. And something has changed over the past 2 years, and our students now know about it. And what has changed is the following. When I get a phone call, a reference phone call to give a reference on an undergraduate student who is just graduating because, for instance, Intl is looking for a cluster of good engineers. They ask me the following: can you tell me whether or not you have any students who have international experience? And it's not just that the family took a vacation. They want a student who has been immersed in a culture, who understands how to think in a cultural context, and who therefore will be given either the only offer that is available at this time or the highest tier offer that the company has. So now we've had difficulty getting Berkeley students to become interested in studying abroad. Now they all want to study abroad. And we have to find the opportunities to do that. So I think Professor Mishima's objective here is a very laudable one, and I fully support it, and I think we all have to work together to encourage our students to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. So I'd like to continue this issue in the globalization and student mobility. I'd like to invite 3 more panelists and ask to their opinion, then continue to discuss. And it was a very wonderful discussion. Thank you very much. So could you please come to the chairs? So I'd like to use both languages, Japanese and English, from now on. Please use receiver. I think that channel 2 is English, and channel 1 is Japanese. はい、これから後半のパネル。
Well, we'd like to start part 2 of the panel discussion. And from here and after, I will mix Japanese and English. And therefore, I would appreciate it if you could use the channels to which you want to listen to. Now, first, the panelists. I'd like to introduce the 3 panelists with us. First, we have Mr. Kakutaro Kitashiro. He is currently the Executive Advisor, IBM Japan. And also, he is the Chair of the Board of Trustees of ICU. And therefore, he is quite familiar with the university situation. And he's graduated from Keio University, and he's learned at UC Berkeley. And so he's a perfect person for this panel. And the second person?
He is now the director of Tokyo Regional Office of NSF. She is now keenly interested in the establishing a new social science funding mechanism that support evidence-based research on the scientific bordering participation. それで最後の方は我々の大先輩ですけども、蔵前工業会理事の
And last but not least, we have Mr. Etsuhiko Shoyama, CEO of the Alumni Association, Kuramae Kogyokai. He is my senior. I would call him a son. And he has been graduated from this university, and also he is the chair. He was the chair and director of Hitachi, and also served at the board position at Keidanren. And with these 3 members, I'd like to proceed to the second part of the panel discussion. And now, first, we'd like to ask the 3 new members on the panel to spend 5 minutes each to give us their comments. Let us begin with Mr. Kitashiro. Please.